You're listening to The Adventuring Party, talking about gaming the Irish way.
Welcome to the party. I'm Liam.
And I'm Owen.
And we are back. This is take two. We took us long at this before, but the recording was irretrievably lost or not started or something, technical difficulties. But we were here to finally bring you our conclusion of our...
The Enemy Within! The Enemy Within!
Yeah, of The Enemy Within, the final book, Empire in Ruins. So, long overdue. You have our apologies, but I wanted to have this run and finished before giving it a review. And then myself and Hidewan are quite busy, so trying to nail the two of us down to get the recording going was a little tricky as well. But we're here, finally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been, what a long, strange trip it's been. It's weird for me because this is only I've played the fifth book, or played or run the fifth book of The Enemy Within 3 times total. But I did it once with the original Empire in Flames.
I think in first ed I got as far as the end of Death on the Reich.
But yeah, so it's been what a long, strange trip it's been. This is, in contrast to the first 3, which are very similar to near identical to First Ed's adventures, updated systematically and stuff on. Book 4, completely new. Book 5, completely new, but inspired by Empire in Flames. There are elements of Empire in Flames in here that have that are kind of like their inspiration for what's happening. The overall idea of this is based on Empire in Flames' overall idea. And of course, we would be remiss if we didn't give you a big, giant spoiler warning. This is full spoilers. We're going to be talking about everything that goes on here.
Yeah, you're now in the 5th book of a 5-book run. Yeah, I don't know that we can even begin to discuss it without throwing in all sorts of spoilers. So
this is going to talk about everything, and we're going to be dipping into the GM side, the player side, the whole shebang, whole kit and caboodle. I gotta say, when I first read the outline of this one and started reading it, I got this terrible sinking sensation in my chest. When I was like, "Oh God, this is going to be worse to run than Power Behind the Throne."
It's probably the one that I read the most. I think before I ran it, I had 2 full read-throughs of the book. And usually how I approach prep for the game is that I will read the entire book, and then before a game, I will read the sections that I think we're going to cover of that week. But I read through this twice, and then, yeah, even still, you're constantly jumping back and forth in the book, and it's difficult to... I did find it difficult to run. There's a lot in it, and just even in terms of the structure of the game itself, you know, the initial parts are a little bit linear. The bit in the middle is quite linear. Towards the end, it's a bit more freeform, and I guess towards the start, it's a bit more free. It's just big, it's chunky, and there's a lot of players.
I gotta say, when I was reading it, this one serves a lot of masters in a way that some of the other ones don't. This seemed to be the original design team for Rough Up 3rd Edition had an idea for the Enemy Within, where what they were going to do was they were going to use the ending of the Enemy Within to align the setting at the start of 4th Edition Wolfrup with the setting in the Warhammer Empire circa 2512 in the war game. And that's one of their goals by it. So there's a ton of stuff in here which is effectively resolving the names of, okay, this province no longer exists, this one that's in Warhammer Armies does, and so on. And one of the things that happened was all of the original creative team had left, with the exception of the head of Cubicle 7. But Graham Davis was still writing it.
Yeah.
So he maintained that. And that was very ambitious. And also, to a GM who maybe doesn't know a huge amount about the Warhammer Empire, it would seem to be, why are you changing so many provinces' names at the end of this?
That's something that I didn't twig when I never played that much. I played Warhammer First Ed. I never played that much of the war game, so I wouldn't have been that familiar with it. Probably the most amount of interaction I've had with the old world setting is playing the Total War games. And I did find it odd that, Middenheim and Midland are different, but I never put two and two together on it. And I did find it very confusing at times when you're trying to figure out whose agenda is what and who they're going up against, because basically the entire empire is falling apart. The empire is the emperor is asleep at the wheel, and everybody's trying to gobble up bits to do it, and that's a fine motivation. But unless you understand what their actual end is, what they currently have, and what their eventual end goal is, it's very difficult for you to grasp who's at what. And there is a table for it. Like if you look on page 11 of the book, there is a table of what the status is of different electors at the start and what the status is at the end. But why and what did elude me and did confuse me. And I think that transferred through to my players as well, because I don't think I was terribly consistent about it. I certainly didn't. The Middenheim thing confused me no end.
That's it, right?
As did the Nuln thing as well.
Yeah. Nuln, the city-state, but also
they're going to gobble this land from this province down here. It's like they don't even share a border.
It's really funny because Nuln are one of the factions, Empire sub-factions in the Old World war game, and so they're talking a lot more about what Nuln was up to during that point in history, which is basically effectively running the Empire's defense of that section, because they were the only one who wasn't so heavily involved in some of the feuding.
Yeah. Well, like Nuln, so pre-game, Nuln is a city-state, but then post-game, it's the capital of Wisdenland. But Wisdenland doesn't even exist.
But it does the end.
But it does the end, yeah. Like, that confused me no end.
Yeah, but if you're not in the war game, you're like, what the hell is going on? That's a city-state. How is it? Well, it was a city-state. Now, due to the machinations of the people in charge, which you kind of sort of see, but don't really, this happens. And I think that's one of the difficult parts of running the adventure. There's all this information in here.
Part of it is as well that your players are naturally going to want to get involved and try and maybe tamp down or try and alleviate some of the problems, and like they can do it to a degree, and it does come up in the game where different electric counts or barons or stuff are going at each other, and you can kind of smooth things over or push it one way or another. But that probably takes away from the ultimate aim of the game, of the module, if that's the way your party goes down. So in a way, it's a distraction.
My party tried to avoid it as much as possible. They saw it as a distraction from achieving their mission as quickly as they could.
Largely, my group did as well, but I think there was some element of them where it was kind of like, how much time will this cost us? Sure, you're going to be held up here for a day or so anyway. Sure, we'll have a poke. Versus, sure, you'd be days at this. All right, well, let's get on here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's that the goals that the party probably identifies important are not. All this will seem like obstacles and distractions, whereas it's actually kind of important to the meta plot. But I think it's difficult for a GM to make the players care, as this is more than just, these guys are up to stuff. I just want to do the job that we're meant to do. I want to get the hammer. Then I want to bring the hammer back. Can we arrange anything so that doesn't happen?
So I guess that's the first kind of real broad stroke with the book, is the political turmoil within the Empire. There's two other kind of big things, which is getting the hammer and what the Purple Hand are up to. Those are the two other big things. The getting the hammer part takes up a chunk of the middle of the book, and it's a much more straightforward, just kind of adventure from an adventure book. Start at point A, get to point B, have various adventures along the way.
Yeah,
that be a fair assessment for you?
Yeah, 100%. It's sort of like this is sort of technically the last hurrah of the Purple Hand, and it's not integrated as well as I'd like, but it's pretty good. There are things I would like to be people I would like to have seen more involved here. Like, for example, I had run the Wolfrup starter set quite a lot.
Mm.
And Emmanuel Noct was a big deal for our game. And she's not she's mentioned in this, but she's not really in it.
No. And she's supposed to be one of the few people who's actively countering the Purple Hand.
Exactly, yeah.
But she never turns up. But
Yeah.
the book in itself is quite inconsistent. It finally kind of explains, but not necessarily how. It explains what the Purple Hand are up to, how they were set up, and what their general goal, admittedly unbeknownst to them, is what they've been directed at. This entire time, there's been a demon that's been had the tower bet out of by Sigmar, and it's been trapped in a cave since, and it's been slowly directing things to try and release itself and become, have a host to take over the empire. That's its goal, and that's what the Purple Hand is entirely created for. The Purple Hand don't know that, and they don't. It's not entirely clear that they know how they're to be directed towards that.
I will also say that on page 14 of this book, if you're just starting to run the enemy within, go look at page 14 because it gives you the approximate starting dates of each of the adventures. So they kind of sync up. So you end up climaxing this campaign on the 9th of Browsite,
Yep.
Which is the 9th month of the year.
The 9th of the 9th.
Yep.
At 9 minutes past 9.
Exactly.
I guess like why I mentioned the Purple Hand thing is like for quite a while you're just kind of writing off the activity of cultists as doing cultisty stuff, and most people don't know what they're doing. They only know like the people in their cell or maybe one person up, and that's how they protect themselves. But you, as a GM, don't know why they're doing what they're doing, so it's hard to figure out how they would react to the party turn up. They scupper what the Purple Hand are up to. Okay, how do they react? Well, I don't really know what the aim of the Purple Hand was, so I don't know how they're going to react to that.
Yeah, I would have liked a little more detail about the Purple Hand in terms of what they do, like why they do what they do. Like, it's kind of like, they're doing this for power and to destroy the Empire. I'm like, that's not what a cult thinks, They think they have a different set of goals, and the low level people they get in for different reasons, and then they all get subsumed into a larger goal. And it's a little bit like, how much do they know they're worshipping Tzeentch? It's kind of very they know. Do they like basically break it down for us exactly what they're doing? Because they will. Every cult will have a justification for why they're doing what they're doing. It'll usually be stupid. But it will be, it should be at least a little bit logical. Or at least it could be perceived as logical by someone who's crazy.
Yes, for me, I guess a lot of the Purple Hands seem superfluous when all they really needed was the 9 tutors in place. But I guess I have to put a structure in place for the 9 tutors to come about. And you need to get the guards in place, and you need to do all the other things that the ritual needed to come off. Given how pivotal the 9 tutors are to the whole scheme, I would have liked more detail on the 9 tutors. As is, it suggests that some of them know exactly what they're at. They know that they are Sneechian cultists. They know that they are trying to prepare the prince to be the perfect to prepare the prince to be open to Sneechian stuff. And some of them aren't. They might be involved in it, but like that, they might be. Maybe they think they're in a gentlemen's or ladies' club or whatever, or a thing of academics, and they don't realize that it's Sneechian or what. As is, when I was running through it, I decided of the 9 tutors, I decided who was in cahoots and who wasn't.
Yep.
And that's kind of left to you to decide. Given the party don't necessarily know what's going to go down on the night, but they know that they should know not to trust the tutors and may decide to dispose of them.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to know more detail on them if that's what's going to happen.
You really do, because the scenario kind of goes, okay, they got a bit of time here. Maybe the party want to go kill some of the tutors. And I'm like, why would they? Like, you need to be a lot more clear about who is in for what reason there. There needs to be a little more detail, because it's a good idea that over the course of the adventure, opportunities arrive to whack some of these guys. That's a good idea.
I'm like, one of the tutors is said he's off exploring, and he's he's clearly spent some time in the Badlands. You're going through Blackfriar Pass. That's the way back from the Badlands. Maybe they bump into him on the way back. He knows he's gotten a summons to come back, and they bump into him in the pass. Boom, there you go, straight away. There's one off the top of the head.
Yeah, like I would have loved if there was a table which was just, here are the Nine Eyes. Here's the cults they were originally drawn from. Okay, here is what a very brief synopsis of what the cult believes, whether they're in on it or not in on it. Here's the information that can hang them. Here's the critical bit that would make you go, aha, aha, right? And there's here's a red herring you can find about.
You do find some clues, but those clues are really those are really to kind of set you in direction of the hammer.
Yeah.
And it's clear that maybe they've been looking into it. Maybe that's what those clues are about, and maybe that puts you in a certain direction. But like, why are you looking for the, like my players certainly asked them, why were you looking into the hammer? It's like, well, I suspect that the real hammer was a fake because I read this Dwarvish book. So I was looking into it to see where the real hammer was. Okay, that's not suspicious at all.
Yeah, no. Not sufficiently suspicious. Not enough for an extrajudicial murder.
No. And granted, that bar can be a lot lower for certain parties than other parties. Yeah, not enough to hang them by. And nobody has, other than the one weird random element of one of them having the same mirror that was used to communicate with one of the Skaven in the previous book. There's nothing really damning in any of their quarters.
No.
I guess one of them has some plays which are sympathetic towards mutants. If you read the first Gotrek and Felix book, it is a rather suspect family for a suspect playwright. He was evil.
That's true. But like the mirror thing, a player would have to be so on the ball to spot that.
I barely got it when I read the books multiple times and ran through it. It was just that was used to coordinate the assassination of a noble to get two parts of the empire to start knocking lumps out of each other.
Which is the triggering thing.
Like, that's barely a thread.
But it's barely, like, there's no.
It's flying off a loose end. That's it.
And it requires the players to remember a plot thread that appeared to have been dropped that appeared in the first book. The assassination of Prince Hals von Tasnik. And they don't even know that the assassination happens. They know that he was going off on a trip to the Great Mountains.
They should have been given clues in book 4.
Yes, you get rumors that he was killed by Skaven. And there's but you needed a stronger thread through that to make it a bit more obvious that this is what's going on. That there could have been a letter or communication from somebody making notes of their communications with the Skaven in code, or basically, hidden behind this, alluded to, and go, hang on, they're talking about Prince Hals von Tasnik. They're talking about arranging his murder in the Grey Mountains. And there's nothing like that. That should have been there, because that's all of a sudden, aha, and there's no straightforward aha moment, which I think is a miss. Now, we're being very negative here. I don't want to be super negative about this, but this is just our critiques that have popped up on it.
I guess it's the critiques and the pitfalls that we get that we came across. I mean, like, overall, I really enjoyed the book, and I enjoyed running through it. So much so that I even used some of the material out of the Empire and Marines Companion book to pad it out a bit.
Because I really like it. There's bits where if it was pushed a little bit further, I think it'd go from being very good to really great.
Yeah, if I took to run it again, I think I could avoid the big pitfalls, and I think I could make it good, and I'd probably skip certain sections and kind of put more focus on other sections.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bunch of politics stuff that I think is kind of dry.
Either your party's really into it or they're not.
Yeah.
And if they are, maybe it's not so good, because that is kind of detracting,
There's a bit where there's the first meeting between the delegation from Altdorf on behalf of the Emperor and the Grafs. And it's a big, long section that sets it up. And I think that either lands or really misses.
I found it funny. I found it kind of fun to run. Basically, yeah, it's one. The entire thing has been set up as sabotage so that the negotiations fail. And I think you need to have fun with that. And maybe the party can figure out that, hey, this has been set up to fail. But if you're trying to run it straight, I think it could be a struggle.
Like, I found this a tricky one. It didn't land a lot for me, but it could have been me. I thought that there's kind of some nice callbacks and some other bits and pieces, but it's sort of a series of scenes that you're gonna have to weave together over the course of it.
Yeah.
And because I was playing digitally, I feel this one would actually work better in person.
It would probably work better in person. I think I found it okay because it does suggest certain things. It does suggest timings, and I found sticking to the clock and like that, like any of the other ones which have clock-based stuff, it's like, okay, either keep the clock going and have the clock visible to people, or just whenever things start to get a bit dry, then boom, the next thing kicks off. Because like that, people can just be a little, and then your party is going around firefighting the whole time, and they don't really have time to. What you don't want is the party to have an excessive amount of time on their hand to actually figure out and make the negotiations go right. So you need to keep things ticking along, and just as your players start to get back on their feet, then hit them with the next hook.
Yeah.
I found that ran okay, but I could certainly see how it could be problematic.
And kind of the next section after this, you go to Altdorf. On the way to Altdorf, there's basically a fight, which is honestly probably welcome for some players who've been getting a little itchy to swing their swords.
So much politic. Kind of just bash stuff. Yeah, and that can be interesting in that it's you could certainly play that up more of who can you trust.
Yeah.
Because you got bad guy Ulricans and good guy Ulricans, and how loyal are the good guy Ulricans to their thing? So can they be trusted or not? That can be interesting. You get to Altdorf for the wedding. You meet up with the prince and probably instantly distrust him because he is absolutely ace rimmer.
Yeah.
Anytime anyone was mentioning something, I just heard in the back of my head, what a guy.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's how you do come across the Nine Eyes and maybe investigate them if you want. The game does, given the amount of stealth checks and stuff, that's something you may want to, as a GM, play down a bit if you do want your party to really look into the Nine Eyes, because as is, unless you got somebody seriously dedicated to stealth, and if you're doing kind of group check stuff, it's going to be difficult for your party to get there to do the investigation. Because the stealth check and pick locks are not trivial.
No, not at all. We had to do it for that.
Yeah, and we do. Yeah, and the table, definitely had a player who was well adapted to that. But then you're also just you need to then have the party be happy with, right? You guys sit there while there's one person does this, or like I say, you let them take the lead, and you allow maybe bend the rules a little to get the entire party in place so they can all take part in the searching and stuff. Yeah, the wedding, the conclave. Well, that's fairly standard to what we've had in different parts, where it's like different politically timed events. A little bit railroady, do you find as well?
Yeah, but I mean, I think kind of you're going to Altdorf.
Or elector counts and yours are just plebs.
Yeah, and additionally, this is where the adventure is happening. Going somewhere else, doing something else, it's not really an option. It's like this is what's going on. And you can be like, no, we're not doing any of this. Okay, but you're going to miss out on what's actually happening.
I guess that's where, if you did find your party's motivations waning a bit, that's where you could use the likes of Noct or someone to try and draw the players in. And they're like, look, you guys have to look into this. I'm asking you as a favor to do this. And she's at the right hand of the emperor. You don't really refuse that kind of request.
Yeah.
After the conclave, you've got the kind of little bit of investigation and looking for clues. I quite enjoy that section. It's a good, certainly the real book. The book itself is quite permissive in that it uses some of the clues that you may have already found by searching through the Nine Eyes. You can figure out where those sources came from and maybe get a bit more information from them. Quintus can be quite a fun character anyway, because he's quite quirky, so he can be fun. And the handouts for this are excellent. Really are very nicely produced and put together.
100%. Like the graphical quality here is very strong, and there's a ton of very distinctive style handouts that look, they look cool. They look suitable. Like it's not like, oh, this is a bunch of kind of very standard fonts and everything like this. No, these look very ornate. They look kind of at the same time. They look the right kind of primitive, the primitive of an early printing press.
Yep.
And they look kind of like this is the sort of fabulous documents that at the same time they're not a modern document. There's not a lot of white space and other bits and pieces. It's like, this is what this is doing. I quite enjoyed this bit. I had to I found online a map of a giant church.
Good.
And I put it in Foundry, and I blocked it all off, put all the guys on it, and then kind of kick things off. And it was sort of fun. And I liked that this is a callback to, this is the last hurrah of Wassmeyer. And that's good, because Wassmeyer, I think, is a very important bad guy in it, because he's a big part he's the center core of book 3, but he's also, it's good that he kind of comes back and you get a chance to take him out. Because him escaping in book 3 is not exactly a given, but it's very likely. And it's good that he basically gets out of this, does this last little bit here. I don't think it's very compelling. If you let me go, I'll tell you stuff. I don't think that's very compelling, because I don't think any party actually took that deal that I've seen. Almost everyone was like, I don't trust you.
Mine didn't. I think they were tempted, but don't think they did. It's like, I'll give you a bigger fish. You're a pretty big fish already, mate.
Yeah. You're the guy we want, though. Oh, damn it.
And certainly my party tried to go, oh yeah, no, give us the information, but totally let you go. And I was like, no, he's not stupid enough to fall for that. He will go with one of you to the edge of the city and be sitting on a fast horse.
Yeah.
Nobody else in sight, give the information and then bolt. But yeah, it's, I don't know, I found Wasmeyer to be a bit weak in this introduction, but I guess my party, I didn't know that they were going to try and bring him back, and my party legit killed him at the end of book 3. So then you just go, oh, he's back. How? Who knows? Demons stuff, necromancy. He's back that way.
I had him basically dive off the side of the rock.
I had him be blown off the side, and then his body was never recovered.
Hey, that means he's not dead. If he's a bad guy, not dead. Mysterious fall off a giant unsurvivable peak. Yeah, right, mate. Pull the other one. It's got bells on.
I guess the next part then is basically the trip down to Blackfire Pass to go recover the hammer. You can play as much of this. I mean, this is a reasonably long section of the book, and part of that is to play up the turmoil in the Empire. So how much you want to emphasize this is entirely up to you. I quite enjoyed running these sections. There were bits where the party were like, okay, we encounter refugees on the river. We turn up to their village. It looks like Reavers have been through a lot of Reavers, and they've gone off. I don't know. I mean, how many days away is their base? Maybe we shouldn't go after them. It could cost us too much time. But they could have easily gone after it, and the book accommodates that to a degree. There's a dispute between two nobles, and the party get irrevocably detained. They could, of course, try and fight their way through. That may not go that well, but it's potential combat if you want it. Playing Leapdorf is fun because he is an odd character. Other than that, any particular highlights you think on the way to?
I like, before they leave, talking to the doctor. Don't show them the picture of the doctor's face.
He is exceptionally evil looking, yes. He looks like a schemer.
He is insanely evil looking. There's an opportunity to kind of hint at Gideon.
I probably should have done that myself, because when I did the big reveal of Gideon, the party were like, who's that?
Yeah.
But to be fair, I haven't seen him in like 4 books.
Yeah. Oh, and one of the things about Quintus you can be nice is you can actually tie it back to Mistaken Identity, where Quintus is the guy who sends the bounty hunter to Office Custos after, and you can kind of go, oh yes, I was trying to get this guy who you exactly look like. And it's good if Castor Lieberung or Castel Lieberung or whoever you have is still there for Quintus to kind of play off. And that's good. And they had fun with that, and they pulled out a bunch of information like that, and they were happy enough. They go down the boat. The boat is a good resource because it keeps one thing. I know my party used the boat and then had arranged for the airship to pick them up on the way back.
I just got rid of the airship. It went off on urgent business.
Yeah, you get rid of the airship. Get rid of the airship.
Too fast.
It lets you skip way too much. Yeah, and it lets you skip all the stuff on the way back.
So Blackfire Pass, you get through to the gorge. The goblins are a fun diversion, but probably not really much more than that, because unless you really stat them like crazy, they're never going to be a threat. It doesn't matter how many numbers there are. Maybe some of their traps might catch PCs, but yeah, even they sit on high up in ambush and fire down. All right, well the wizard flies up and immolates them all. Right, job done. The artwork for the drawings that the crazy goblin chief has been painting, Good. Really enjoyed those.
Yeah, the art here is really strong. The goblins have a ton of character in them. They look mad and goblinish, and the rest of the art, the drawings, it's really good. It's a really kind of get the players going.
I did enjoy the goblins because of just how treacherous they are.
It'd be nice if they were more of a threat.
They encounter the chief, and he's like, "My two underlings are plotting against me. Do them in." And they encounter the underlings, and they're like, we want to do the chief in."
Yeah, they're trying to kill me. Yeah, you're not wrong, mate. You're not wrong. I think if they were a little more of a threat, that would be nice. But you have to fix that with some much larger scale changes in the game. But yeah, I like that section. I like that section a lot. Case of Chaos, really like that. One hint: if you're struggling with the time, there is an implication that time is funky in the Caves of Chaos.
Yeah, this is your big chance to put if you're sticking to the calendar, this is your chance to go, oh, well, you thought only a day has passed. Well, it's been a week. Or vice versa. You thought you spent a couple of days in there, and actually, no, it was only an hour.
Yeah. It is your opportunity to adjust matters. I thought most of the caves were good. Some of them are a little less of an issue than others. Like the gold one is kind of like, I am the demon of that. Nope, not dealing with you, mate,
Yeah, I mean, if your party has gotten this far, they're probably not going to take an obvious trap from a demon.
Yeah.
But, that's fun.
There's a big minotaur to fight. That's always welcome, and a big monster to fight,
Just give them a backup weapon. Drop. I hate the drop spell.
Very strong, very strong. The Azer one with just a blowing wind.
Yeah, it's a bit of a I mean, look, there's 9 rooms. Having one or two dead rooms is fine, and depending on your party group, they might struggle with it a bit. You could certainly of all of them, that's the one maybe you might want to jazz up a little bit. There's a cleric who is up to no good, or has done a dark deal. I really enjoyed playing him as well. That kind of I like that conundrum given to the players, where it's like, here's a cleric of a good god, or a priest of a good god. Cool, right. Should we trust him? Shouldn't we trust him? And he actually genuinely does want to help the party. I really enjoy that. I liked that element. And then ultimately you get the hammer and get out of there.
And if you don't take the hammer, there's a random party assembled from different NPCs you met along the way.
Cast-offs. Some of whom would recognise from different having interacted with them. Some of them are from, like the ogre is from one of the companion books. He's from an optional part on one of the companion books, so you don't directly come across him, but you may have if your party used much of the extra content.
Exactly. So they're basically, oh my god, it's her and her and him and him, and her. And you might remember.
The return to Altdorf is much more straightforward. I did not get the whole thing with the chain. I thought they were completely irrelevant.
You see, I think the chain are there to explain how you got the fake hammer.
Yeah.
Because some players might really be jazzed up about where the fake hammer came from.
But then, aside from the initial meeting, okay, so you meet up. You meet up with the dwarf elders in the mountain because they've known what they figure out something's going on. They meet you in the valley and go, "Hey, oh yeah, it was a fake hammer. Boom! If you need any assistance, here's a list of contacts in these towns along the way."
Yeah,
done. The need to smuggle the party through. I don't know. I just didn't buy it. I just didn't see why.
I think it was to try and draw the thing of the dwarves are trying to help you.
Yeah.
Because they feel guilty about making the fake hammer. And I think it's part of, look, there's good in the Empire too, sort of thing.
Mm.
Part of it. It's not the strongest. It almost feels like kind of weirdly almost a bit of World War II stuff, with kind of you being helped out by the kind of a Jewish underground or French resistance.
You sit down at a cafe for a coffee and then there's a Monsieur, le téléphone.
Yeah, basically. I think that's kind of, sort of, a bit of a thematic influence on it.
I guess, yeah. But that assumes you're in hostile territory. And
Exactly.
aside from, like...
There's one city where you're in hostile territory.
One city which is hostile territory. Unless you are ahead of schedule, which you probably should have been able to correct with the cave stuff, there shouldn't be too many obstacles being thrown in your way.
Yeah.
You do have the option of throwing stuff in the party's way, because that's what it says. Gideon will actively try and hinder the party if they're too fast. If they're too slow, he will try and help them. I guess the big event on the way back is that you stop off at the Wolfshugel to jazz up, to re-energize the hammer. That's a point defense. You can have a lot of fun with point defense. I think my group certainly enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. It was really good. I really enjoyed that. The other thing I really enjoyed was the bit from the optional adventure defending the city.
Yeah, so there's a town, Teesdorf, which has the party turn up, and the local baronet got whacked, and a bunch of the councillors of the town got whacked, and a giant chaos horde has turned up to assault the city. It's quite well put together. There's a lot of good resources on it. It can also be a point where the players can feel like they have contributed, because if in book 2 they didn't whack Ulfidner the Destroyer, he's there. If they didn't wipe out Etelka Hertzen, she's there. There's various NPCs who were in previous books, which if they didn't deal with them in those books, they turn up and can certainly make the whole encounter and the horde a lot stronger. And there's lots of different events. It's that kind of similar style whereby it doesn't tell you exactly what to do when, but it gives you a lot of resources in terms of events that will turn up and how they will interact. There's a shanty town on the outside of the wall. What do you do? Do you destroy it? Okay, well, that's going to cause unhappiness in the town, discontent in the town. Who are you getting to do that? Are you getting the militia to do it? Are you getting townspeople to do it? What will the impact of that be if it's military guys rather than townsfolk? It does give you a lot of guidance on all that stuff. And as a GM, I found it a very well put together set piece.
Yeah, I thought it was. I had tons of fun with you running it, and I thought it was great that the big victory point system at the end, where everything kind of mattered.
Yeah, and you didn't necessarily know. Like, what was nice is you didn't necessarily know what the right thing was.
Yeah.
Do you keep? You've sent scouts out, and they come back and go, well, several of our scouts have been killed. Do you pull them back? Do you get them to be more careful? Do you just stop scouting at all? What do you do? It might be that you will get no extra information and you just lose scouts by sending them out. It might be, if you withdraw them totally, that, okay, you'll have more scouts for the battle, but you'll have a lot less intelligence. Yeah, if you are running anything, I do recommend that companion book. I definitely recommend The Siege of Deesdorf. It is good. Other than that, the companion book, yeah, some more stuff on the Macrock tribe was nice. Shining Rock. You ran the Gravelord stuff?
I ran the Gravelord stuff all the way along, and the players liked him as a bad guy because he's not super competent, super dangerous bad guy. He's a guy with a lot of power who shows up but is an idiot, and he's a grandiose, over the top idiot.
Yeah. Real what's the Voyager holodeck bad guy? Captain Proton, that villain.
He's got a measly voice. He's like, I'm gonna get you all.
Very mean, the merciless, yeah.
Yeah. And he's literally a guy trying to dress up as Heinrich Himmler, and he does everything like Heinrich Himmler does without being as dangerous as Heinrich Himmler. So I really like that. And he's got his death skulls, and at this stage he's got some really dangerous undeath.
When do you shove that in when you're doing the Gravelord stuff? Like what?
The whole point about it is he repeatedly shows up to attempt to take vengeance on them.
Rather than just quietly taking over somewhere, he's obsessed with the party.
He's obsessed with the party. And what he does is he does things like he tends to attack them when they're on the move. So the first time they fought him on the ground, second time he attacked them while flying in on carrions when they're in the ship. So what attacked them what makes them nearly crash before thing was actually an attack by the Gravelord. Because like carrions attacking you when you're up with a thing is like, okay, my party were not flush with guns, and they were like, we need to get close to this guy. So they climb up on top of the balloon and fight the carrions off. So that was fun. And so then basically he shows up in this one. Where does he show? Basically, there's a whole series of where he might show up, where he might, but he's this. Things are getting a bit boring. It is time for the Gravelord to show up and get beaten back again.
Yeah, particularly if you got a group who may not be into the politicking and stuff, or even just the journeying stuff, you can be like, all right, well, here's a fight piece.
And then it's a little bit about there's some Legend of the Leechmaster stuff and the Legend of Krell and bits and pieces, which is nice extra lore to have a read through at the worst case,
So I guess that then once you've done the Wolfshugel and all, and any kind of side diversions that you want, you get back to Altdorf to gear up for the final showdown. I thought it was good, but maybe a little bit bare bones, particularly given so that I think by then the party has probably figured out that there is a ritual afoot. They need to stop it, but maybe they don't know how to go about it. Certainly, there's some stuff my party got in and sabotaged the trap door. That was nice, and all the resources were there to show it.
So satisfying.
Same with the guards, swapping out the guards and stuff. I think you still need that to go ahead, but maybe it's a bit more chaotic. I had it that they managed to get rid of most of the guards, so yeah, the prince got whacked, but you already made it because again the guys went for him. That the alarm had kind of been raised, so that was the kind of my party's reward for having done that. They're probably going to want to do more to muck things up. So I think really what you have to do is keep the time tight on this one. What do you think?
My favorite bit is sabotaging the trap they use to get rid of Galmar's.
The bad guy presses the button and nothing happens.
Yeah, no, I had it drop like 6 inches and stop, like chunk, and they're like, and then the party has an opportunity to say something cool. Because it's a bit where the party gets to outsmart the bad guys.
Yep.
In a really obvious thing way. It's like, well, I'm afraid we noticed that one. And then the one of the party can pick up Galbar's and be like, right now, what are we having that? And that's very satisfying. To be like, let me just pick up this hammer. Okay, now someone's been Mr. Clever Clogs, but I'm afraid today you are not that Clever Clogs anymore.
It's hammer time. Oh.
Absolutely. And it's important for at the end, the party to start outsmarting the bad guys. And they feel really cool when they're at the end, when they're suddenly, all of a second, we've got the upper hand, and start battering these guys and see they've appeared to their plot. Now they're all out in the open, and that means the players can start killing people. And that's good.
I do think that it's important in your kind of after game wrap up with your players that you do kind of discuss the results table.
Yes.
So it wasn't apparent to the players, but depending on what they've done all through the campaign, not just in the final book, but definitely the kind of the bigger events are in the book. It depends on how powerful Sugar Arthur will be when he gets summoned.
Yeah.
To the extent where if he's at his full power, good luck beating him. As is he was either at his weakest or second from weakest when he fought my party. A bit of a flaw in the system that the big bad right hand of Sneech, the god of magic, often his best action is to kick someone in the head.
Definitely needed, I get a free cast.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I had, because I was using group advantage, it was just like, there was all these bad guys around that were just generating advantage from every turn. So he was like, yeah, I'll take an extra action. Cast spell. That's
probably a solid way to go. Even if you made it an extra action that's only used for casting, it would be solid. I mean, casting stats were decent enough, even without successfully casting some of the bigger power spells, which maybe if you gave him a few traits, he could probably successfully get them off. It's enough to frustrate your wizard at any point anyway, because his language magic stat is so high, he can be counterspelling the whole time, which, I don't know, maybe is that fun? Is that not fun? He's got one counterspell, but so if you go one wizard, the whole thing is to have two wizards there. And you luckily have an option for another wizard. I did use that. It's a big ceremony. What you call them? Brain gone. Not Falkmar. Brazier head. The head of the colleges. Yes. What's his name? Tyrus Gorman. That's the one. Not Pyrus. Tyrus Gorman. Tyrus Gorman could be like, and he counters him. He's like, but your player wizard could be like, pew. Yep. And it'll work out. Overall, I did enjoy it. Did enjoy the final combat, as I think it's a little bit of a weakness with the system itself. That's just how size works, and that's been a problem since the first book. That it's like if you're two sizes larger than something and you hit it, it's in trouble. Like one of my players got hit a couple of times, and basically every time it was burn a fate point or die, because it's just that much damage. It is, and they are a tough fighter. They have very very high toughness, lots of armor and stuff. But it was still a case of take 60 damage. All right, well, that's dead. So, burn a fate point. All right, you miraculously dodged out of the way. You see, the size is this rule that it does way too much damage, but it doesn't come up much because most of the monsters who are big have terrible weapon skill. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. They never hit you. Well, they do. Hit you, you're squishied. Like, if you're a halfling and you're fighting large creatures, you have exactly the same problem. Yeah. That's why goblins are medium-sized. Yeah, exactly. All right, but so I mean, that's it. So that's the final fight, won or lost. The book tells you kind of what will happen, and then we get out to rewards, which I guess is probably the nice point, where it ties off and a player gets the reward that was promised. Right at the start of Mistaken Identity, you get exactly that reward that you were
you're meant to get. You get the old, and there's some very nice art. There's a nice little epilogue art piece where the party down 2 members, like the official party, a bit injured. Where clearly the troll slayer has died, as has one of the other. I think the witch hunter has been killed.
Getting Gak taken out of a greater demon of chaos. That's exactly how a Slayer wants to go.
And you're back to reclaim Castle von Wittgenstein.
Yep. Certainly I threw out, I made up a couple of random rewards for other players, and I thought that was a nice little tie-off. I did feel that it was maybe a bit weak that one player gets a great reward and everybody else is kind of like, well, here's a pension and some money. So I felt, and I think it would probably be good for GMs in general to tie in a tailored reward for everybody.
But like GM will have to tailor that. I think it's a good idea to do it.
That's the kind of thing you need to know your party for. So like the knight character who's been set up a knightly order, they got an official sanction and a bursary, and the wizard, he got accepted into the wizard's witch hunter order, or an invitation to join them and stuff. Diesdorf is still lacking a baronet, so that was thrown to another player. So I think it would behoove you to again, just a nice little tie-off to give everybody kind of a tailored reward.
And but like all in all, I thought it was very good. I think it suffers from not having the 20 years of playtesting that the first 3 books have.
I mean, honestly, you could nearly separate it into 2 books. There's that much content.
And what I would like is, I would have liked more information on the Nine Eyes, more information on the Purple Hand.
Yeah.
And more like stuff how the players will interact with it. And if we were going to cut something out, we could have cut some of the politics and internal empire reorganization stuff. Because that's actually, I think, fodder for the companion.
Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
More than the mainline stuff.
Do you want to embellish the politicking? Do you want to embellish the civil war that's kicking off? Well, that's in the companion. Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment.
But I think all in all, I love it as a campaign. I know there's bits of it that are a bit creaky, there's bits of it thing, and you'd have better ideas about how to run stuff after running it.
I think after having run it, and also the fact that it's now a finished product, you can pick up all 5 books, read through them, and then you would know in book 1 and book 2 and stuff, when stuff that kind of get hinted at or kind of kicked off, you know where they're ultimately going to end. I think that would help with the running as well. You can kind of steer things and emphasize more things. Overall, I really, really enjoyed it. It's certainly the longest campaign I've run.
Yeah.
So I'm now on GM holiday.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I've run or played in it multiple times, so I'm happy with it,
Yeah. All right. Any closing thoughts?
No, I'd love to see a little bit more supporting stuff that comes out in the next little while. Maybe even like if they did a Purple Hand PDF or Purple Hand section, like Cults of the Empire, and do a big Purple Hand section of it, that'd be lovely.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are still producing active content. I know they released a dwarf book recently. I was salivating over. I was like, ooh, dwarf book, eh? Well, maybe that's also because I've been reading the Gotrek. Like, I picked up the Gotrek and Felix first omnibus recently, so I've been reading through that. So maybe that's piqued my dwarven interest. So yeah, maybe fingers crossed.
100%.
All right, cool. Well, if you have any thoughts on Empire and Runes, or indeed the entire arc of The Enemy Within, you can hit us up on our social media, on our Discord. Yeah, sure. Tell us a funny story about something that happened during your game, maybe with spoiler tags. All right, for now, this party's over.
Thanks for listening to the Adventure Party. You can find show notes and links to things we've mentioned at www.theadventuringparty.net and on our Facebook page. You can leave comments there or record a message at www.speakpipe.com/theadventuringparty. We can also be contacted by email at party@theadventuringparty.net. If you'd like to be touched with the party all the time, come join our Discord server. Links in the show notes. The Adventuring Party is released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike version 3 license.